Welcome to We Are Libertarians for this week. I'm your host, Chris Spangle, a.k.a. Dear Leader. And to my left is the ever-faithful Greg Lenz.
Chris, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, except for that 1 week where you were kind of a little shaky there for a while. You'd no-called, no-showed to a couple podcasts. But
that was due... You know that story, and it's not appropriate for on air.
See, I give and I give and I give to our listeners, and then you clam up.
Yours aren't nearly as embarrassing as mine are.
That's true.
Yeah.
And then across the table is the lovely Chloe Anagnos.
Hello.
Chloe, nice of you to join us.
Good to be back. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. She is the Miss Banks of the Wabash. She is the Miss Circle City, former Miss Circle City. She's also the marketing director of the Advocates for Self-Government. So if you order the World's Smallest Political Quiz or the Operation Politically Homeless Kit, she personally has touched every item in your box.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You want to tell a bunch of creepertarians that?
Yes. And if you order something from the Advocates, ask for Chloe and she'll autograph it for you.
I will. And, unfortunately, I haven't gotten any requests yet. So maybe this episode will do it.
Also, how do you say your last name? Najamone? Seth?
Nyman.
Nyman. I wasn't even close.
Is it Nyman?
It is. Few Americans get it right. It's it's Czech.
Czech, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow. No way. I'd have never got that in a million years.
Only people that do get it right on the first time are Czechs and some Germans as well.
No way.
Yeah, so.
Nyman.
Yes.
Nyman.
Like
right.
Simon, but with an N.
Right.
I feel a lot better already.
Or Hyman.
I feel pure.
What is that?
Hyman. Yeah, you don't know.
I don't understand.
Yeah. We'll explain why later. But Seth, this is his first time. He is a handsome young libertarian from Indianapolis. How old are you?
23.
Okay. And Chloe, you're 20...
I'm 23. We'll be 24 this summer.
Oh, okay. Greg, how old are you?
I'm 30.
Ew, gross. I am 32. So, young crowd here, but collectively we have a lot of political experience. Chloe is actually going to be joining us more frequently, hopefully.
Yes, I am.
So, she is, think of her as the new Gina, or the new Galt. So, if you listened, you'd understand. Back in the day, long before we knew you, there was a lovely woman named Gina Martinez who was on the podcast for, 40 episodes?
Yeah.
Easily.
And she was our left libertarian quasi. She'd have been a total Bernie Sanders supporter.
Oh, she is. I've talked to her. She's feeling the burn hardcore. Chloe is more... How would you describe your political leanings?
Okay, so I knew you were going to ask me that.
Okay.
I would say libertarian-leaning Republican, if that makes sense. Believe a lot in libertarian philosophy. Used to work for a Republican Party, a local affiliate here in Indiana. But, really, ever since I started hanging around you guys and, working with Brett, I think I've been a lot more exposed to libertarian philosophy and thought. So
isn't it amazing how they just keep pushing?
I know.
They just keep sticking that
just
needle.
Keep sticking me, and we'll see.
Take
where
the quiz
get.
again. Take the quiz again.
Yeah, try again.
Defend that position.
When you took that quiz for the first time, where'd you score?
I think I was like, okay, so the very, very first time I took it, I was in high school. And I don't remember what my score was, but before I interviewed the last time with Brett, I had taken it again, and I was like an 80, 100.
Oh, okay. So you're fairly libertarian.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we are going to make you an anarchist. That's what's going to happen, and you'll hate Republican events to the point that you leave the party. I don't know that you'll want to join the Libertarians. We'll talk about that some other time.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Seth, where would you say you lean politically?
I would say anarcho-capitalist, so definitely an anarchist, voluntarist. Yeah, not much love for government or anything in it.
Yeah, so where did you start? Did you just develop? Were you just always that way?
Yeah, I was born that. No,
were you born this way?
Yeah, I was. Lady Gaga told me that. No, family's just kind of like moderate Republican, but never really active in politics. Never really cared, and so kind of inherited that throughout high school, and was essentially just a big statist. Got in with Ron Paul in 2012, met my Lord and Savior, asked him to my heart, and eventually libertarian, minarchist, small government type thing, and then eventually, about 6 months into it, had gone far enough down the rabbit hole that I decided I was ANCAP, and then I've pretty much been that way ever since. I understand it better than I did back then, but
It's actually how we met, Seth, was the debate between Dr. Randall Holcomb from Florida State and Dr. David Friedman.
Yeah, that was a very very interesting debate.
It was. I
liked
remember
it.
you came up to me, and you were just graduating, I think. Or you were just getting... Or a year before
I might
you
have had
graduated.
like a semester or two left. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
you didn't have much left, and
Yeah.
you came up to me and you go, and Chris, and you were like, "You guys sound nothing like, or you look nothing like you sound."
We're much handsomer in person.
And I had just questioned David Friedman about the inevitability of an anarcho-capitalist society, and then it was something about. I said it wasn't possible without a mandate, and you had a philosophical response to it.
Yeah. Yes.
It was very libertarian,
I do
in case
remember,
you were wondering.
I do
It was
remember
as
that
libertarian as it
conversation.
imagines.
Yeah, I do remember having that conversation. Yeah, because you said everyone would have to have a mandate for a rights enforcement agency.
Right, or else
Yeah.
it'd be the rogue actor.
Yeah. I do remember that conversation. I've thought about it more, and I have a better answer for you, perhaps some other time. But
We'll end with that.
Man,
Okay.
it's been some real nerd shit already.
You can imagine the women that were swooning at this event when they heard us debate whether or not a mandate was necessary.
And the men.
In the men.
All right.
In the men.
all two of them.
All two.
All two of the gay libertarians.
Yeah. At that event, that was the first time that we met David Friedman,
It was. The Poon Hound.
the Poon Hound extraordinaire. Let me
My
tell you.
God.
Let me tell you about David Friedman. David Friedman introduced himself to all the ladies at that event. Do you remember that?
I was kind of oblivious to it at the time, but I usually am on straight guys trying to do stuff with women. But thinking back and hearing from other friends, yeah, he's quite the ladies' man.
Yeah, I mean Suzanne Schaefer. He couldn't have hugged her harder. He got a photo, and man, there was no hover hand.
No.
He had his arm around her waist, and I don't blame him.
Well,
Suzanne's
I
a lovely lady.
told you my story, Spangle.
You
about,
met him.
Yeah,
Recently.
I mean, really, really briefly, pretty recently at the International Students for Liberty conference in
Right.
D.C. And we saw him kind of walking around, and Brett Bittner basically was like, "Hey, you definitely need to get a picture with him so we can send it to Lenz and Spangle." And I said, "Sure, if you initiate it, because I'm a little socially awkward around people like that."
Yeah,
so
we'll get to that.
Well,
So you went up, David Friedman, what's your deal? Tell me your deal.
Chloe looks at Seth earlier and goes, "So, what's your deal?" And I look at her and go, "What?" And she goes, "I'm trying to make friends."
it's a little hard out of college. I'll admit.
It's okay, honey. You're a libertarian. We didn't expect you to be socially progressive anyways.
I'm trying. But anyway, back to my David Friedman story. I went over to him and I said, "Hey, would you mind if I get a picture with you? I just want to get a picture." And he was like, "I always have time for pictures with pretty girls." Yes. Yes.
Oh, my God.
And
I need a shower.
Well, I'll have to send you that picture again, but I'm just straight up cheesing because I'm just trying so hard not to
Not
cry.
to laugh, yeah.
Yeah, it was
and
hilarious.
he's like, what, 5'2"?
Yeah, he's shorter. I'm 5'3", and
I
he's
think
shorter than I
Manlet
am.
is the term, or a hobbit?
Man.
Hobbit.
See, now I'm triggered.
Oh, sorry.
Hobbit-esque.
We're trying to be vertically sensitive, Seth.
Hey, I went on a date with a guy a couple weeks ago. He was very short, but so I
Did you call him a manlet?
No, I did not. I wanted a second date, so
Did you make fun of his hands?
no, I did not.
Is small hands
He had
concerned?
very nice hands.
Okay. As you've spilled the beans, Seth is a confirmed bachelor. Seth is
That's true.
Such a nice boy. Why'd he never marry? That's how they used to say it back in the 60s. He is a homosexual. Is that what you prefer?
Yeah, we can go with that one. That'll work.
So he is
Is
joining.
there another term?
I've heard of a few, but homosexual seems to be.
I've got a whole bunch of them. Let's get
Well,
into it.
no. I'm non-offensive, non-triggering.
Oh.
In all,
The ones you were thinking of.
in all seriousness, gay is usually just the simple
okay.
shorthand.
All right.
Okay. So Seth is
Usually with a seal shouting it, but
So as you can tell, Seth is a very knowledgeable and funny and intelligent guy, so we wanted to add him to the lineup. So this is the first of what we hope to be many appearances. He actually was I've got an answer to that question that you put in the Facebook group, but I'm too lazy to type it out. I was like, then come on and talk about it, because I don't have time to sit here and talk about this on a messenger. And we wanted you to come on anyways. And it works out because we have some LGBT issues. So congratulations on being the official LGBT correspondent for We Are Libertarians.
President of all the gays. I
Gay
want that
Libertarians.
Yes.
I would never want that title.
You're
not in a million years.
You're senior vice president of all gay libertarians.
There we go. I'm moving up the ranks quickly.
Put that in your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Wow.
That'll look good for future employment.
Yes.
Sure.
So
Not in North Carolina.
quite a few happenings here in the world of We Are Libertarians. A lot of big things are taking place. First and foremost, just because it's on top of my mind, we have a brand new logo.
We do.
Yeah, so you should see it in your feed. You should see the brand new logo. It's similar to the last one, but I went to my friend PJ. You know PJ, Chloe.
I do know PJ. I work with him a lot.
Yep.
He's great.
PJ actually did these bumper stickers.
He did.
You can get these at the Advocates.
Yep. Freedom is my favorite F word. Make sure that you go to our Facebook page to get a free sticker. They are gorgeous.
Yep, we're videotaping these now, so you can check it out on YouTube. Yeah, that's great. So, PJ Yinger of Yinger Design here in Indianapolis, he does all the Advocates work. He does all my work at Bob and Tom. He is a great friend, and he's the person who introduced me to Tom and how I got that job. And so I just went to him casually, and I said, hey, you remember that poster that you printed off for Jeff? Can you make one for Greg and I? And so I'll take a photo of it and post it on the Instagram. We Are Libertarians. And he said, this would be cool if we did this, this, and this with the logo. I was like, well, if you're not going to charge me, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so he reworked up the logo, and I just basically said the theme, this is my first logo that I've ever designed, that We Are Libertarians logo. And I said, so there's problems with it. I know now, 4 years later, that I need this, this, and this, and this. And what I was really going for was Libertarian Strongman. I was going for... because we're irreverent, I wanted to be ironic and use sort of that Nazi propaganda, that communism theme.
Just because it's Nazi doesn't mean it wasn't well done.
No,
Gosh.
I thought that was Japan's rising sun in the background. But.
Something like that
okay.
too. Yeah, so that authoritarian look is, I think, neat.
Yeah,
and well designed, and so
it's ordered. It's not chaotic.
And so that is a redo of it. You can check out our Facebook or our Instagram, or the podcast art should hopefully have updated by now. So check that out. And listen, if you have graphic design needs, hit PJ up. He's a terrible businessman. You can get him for cheap. As always, we want to thank all of our donors. Dustin Reed.
Thank you, Dustin.
A good friend. Sam Naimi. I know you sent a note on how to pronounce your name, and I did not read it or remember it. But thank you. I promise the next time, if I got that wrong, I will get it right. And the award for greatest wall listener goes to Christy Avery, who once again has been gracious. We can't call this these are the Klozinski studios.
Yes.
Phyllis Klozinski is our dear friend and an early believer in We Are Libertarians and
OG wall fan.
Yep. And so we have named these the Klozinski studios. But I am here to declare today that I am speaking into the official Christy Avery microphone.
All right.
Okay.
I love it.
So my mouth is gently pressed up against the Christy Avery microphone. So I figured there could be no greater honor for Christy than that. Right?
There you go.
So Christy actually donated pretty much the entire cost for our very first outreach booth, which is how that whole thing got started with PJ. We are going to be at the Libertarian Party of Indiana convention. We're going to have a table. I had to buy all kinds of outreach gear and got printed materials and business cards and stickers and all kinds of fun things. So see us at the Libertarian Party of Indiana convention here in a couple weeks.
Score some swag.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take a selfie.
Yeah.
I'll be there too.
So Christy helped fund the cost of that by donating via PayPal at the website. So thank you to her. And there is another thing coming up that
Big? Are we announcing or no?
no,
Okay.
not this podcast, but let me just say to you, if you are in the Indianapolis area and you're a We Are Libertarians fan, or if you're not a Spangle fan but you're a Greg fan,
I have a feeling that's a pretty small delegation.
I don't know. I mean, I would totally be a Greg fan over a Spangle fan. Would you two not agree?
Yeah. He bought me a sweet tea. So
Yeah, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. I'm a dick. I get it. But Monday the 18th.
Bought is an odd choice. Can I have a sweet tea? Why can't you do it?
Did she Hannah you?
Total Drozdich move.
Cook. And so
We're still in that period, that window. So
I know.
I'm not, till everything's settled.
April 18th in Indianapolis, there may or may not be a live event that you're going to want to come see. A live podcast, possibly. All right, we don't have all the details, but I want you to keep that date because it's coming up soon. It's going to be totally be worth the road trip. So make sure your schedules are clear that night, because if this happens, listen, I know I ask a lot of you, but I also give. I give and I give and I give to the people listening right now. Greg.
Generous and thorough.
Oh, my God. There is nobody else in the podcast world that is more generous and thorough than I am.
If they only knew how many nights you spend up thinking about how you can improve the content for the listener.
It's actually really true. So I just need this. Okay, I need this, guys. I need you to make a good impression should this happen. All right?
He is a bit anxious on whether or not we can fulfill certain obligations. I have no doubt that the listeners of Wallistan will show up and we will invade.
I don't want to gas my own people. But I will, okay? I will do it. I will do it with a heavy heart. But I will.
Many feels.
So please, bookmark that. That would be an awesome, awesome event for all of us. There will be lots of beer there. It will not be free, but there will be lots of beer there. Seth, are you a drinker?
Yep.
No, not at all.
Okay, smart ass. He's drinking a beer right now.
He fits right in perfectly. This is wonderful.
I know Chloe's a drinker. She smashed a whole bottle of sangria the last time she was here.
I know Chloe's a drinker. That Chloe.
Gee, thanks.
Oh, God, the last time she was here, she forgot deodorant. She drank a whole bottle of sangria.
I didn't forget deodorant. What are you talking about?
Had her feet out.
I did not. I did not.
Dim toes, though.
Chloe is like the cutest. She just had she was like, earlier, she's like, "Can someone bring me my shoes?" And I go, "Why?" She goes, "Because I'm embarrassed. I don't have polish on my feet. They look so bad." I go, "Really? Like my toenails? Like I need clippers, hedge clippers to trim my nails."
They look like Ron Paul.
Yeah, right. Andy Rooney's eyelashes are to my toenails. I mean,
Oh man,
Ugh, gross.
so no, they're all trimmed up. Emily made me trim them up after I stabbed her 14 times one day. So
I believe it.
Well, shall we podcast?
I'm already tired.
I was going to say, I feel like we should probably get things going before you pass out.
Yeah. So we've done a lot of politics lately. We talked libertarian politics a lot, and we wanted to do some issues because we know that a lot of you are out there just going, "What the hell is going on?" And so we've got some answers and solutions for you. So, Greg, why don't you kind of recap what we're going to talk about in this episode tonight?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'll actually let Chloe, since Chloe did all this hard preparation, I'll let her set up the Panama Papers because we're going to discuss two things. One, we'll be discussing the massive leak of the quote-unquote Panama Papers that came out. And then we will be discussing a controversial LGBT bathroom law that was passed in North Carolina. And it's political blowback and fallout via PayPal announcing they'd be pulling out. But we will start with Panama.
I'll tell you what. Can I override you on that? Because I think I want to read the letter first and then get into that and then flow right into North Carolina and then end with the Panama Papers because I think that that one's going to be easy for us. But so can you hand me that? And so sorry, Greg. I didn't mean to.
Oh, no. I'm... Hey, we're spontaneous order. We just let things arise.
So gay stuff first?
Gay.
I didn't say it.
Gay stuff.
Stop stop appropriating.
So last time we asked several of you to write in, and a lot of you wrote really nice letters to us, and thank you. I know I saw one from Sam that I have not yet read. We also had just a lot of you read. We want you to write in and say, hey, has this podcast affected you in some way, positive, negative? Have you been more active? Have you done something because of this podcast? Because sometimes we do this and it's a one-way street, and we really want it to be a two-way street. So we want to hear from you. We want you to send us notes, talk to us, ask us questions. If you have a content question, or if you have a political question that you need answered, let's say you don't understand this aspect of libertarianism, editor at We Are Libertarians. It's also Lenz at wearelibertarians.com or Spangle at wearelibertarians.com.
Feel free to I get a lot of messages on libertarian philosophy, which I'm not entirely sure why, but I do. You can feel free to message me.
You can send a note to our Facebook page, and you can get in touch with us there. But yeah, some of you have sent really nice notes. We've been posting those in the Facebook group that we've got that you can access on the front page of wearelibertarians.com. So this comes from Eric Robertson. I'm sorry. All right. Hey, Chris, I've recently started listening to the We Are Libertarians podcast. Before listening, I would have probably identified as a neocon or conservative libertarian, but after the past few weeks of listening to your podcast, I can say that I've come out of the closet as a flaming libertarian. Are you triggered, Seth?
Just a little.
The way that you mix comedy, social, and economic issues with libertarian politics has really awakened me to the possibilities of the Libertarian Party as a whole. I love it all and will be supporting your show monetarily, bless you, my child, because I believe that the millennials and people in general need to hear the libertarian message presented in a way that you and your co-host do on the show. Y'all don't act like, he's from Georgia, y'all don't act like the stuck-up assholes or puppets of the other two parties. Trust me, we're not puppets. This is an 800-square-foot apartment, and my front bumper's falling off my car. And we are kind of stuck-up assholes, though, aren't we, Greg?
I tend to invade assholes and get stuck, but I don't necessarily,
Well, now I'm triggered.
Why did you give me that look, Greg, when you said that?
What?
Any particular reason?
No, actually, it's actually due to my blossoming reputation as a divider.
Oh, you didn't mean like literal assholes. You were talking figurative.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was a metaphor.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's a
sorry.
metaphor.
Seth got excited.
I'm not, yeah.
Is Greg your type?
No.
Jewish.
Y'all don't act like the stuck-up assholes or puppets of the other two party. I love the memes, and Greg is hilarious. Thanks, asshole. And it's funny when he is trying to be serious and everyone else is screwing with him. That is fun.
That is fun.
I live
Not
in Cairo, Georgia, and on the last podcast, when you mentioned Mons and his run for Georgia governor, I fangirled a little bit. I also started listening to the Jason Stapleton podcast because of his appearance and advertisements on your show. I do have a question for you, though. I'm really enjoying Stapleton, but his podcast on the right to discriminate, I found myself disagreeing with a few of his points. He stated that people have the right to discriminate based on color, religion, and sex, basically said that if that happens, then people will just take their money elsewhere. But I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, that discrimination being a right, in the sense that I can essentially refuse services to someone based on race, religion, orientation, is inhibiting the liberties of others. I understand and agree with religious objections, but when you go as far as to say that racism is someone's right, then I hop ship. I know that he advertises with you, used to, and it may be a kick in the nuts to critique that statement on We Are Libertarians. It's not. We're big boys. We have huge nuts, big hands. But personally, how do you think libertarians should go about understanding this predicament? Thanks, boss. And, buddy, it's dear leader to you. So thank you for writing that note, Eric Robertson. We greatly appreciate it. So do you have a right to be racist? Do you have a right? And Gary Johnson, this actually has flared up because Gary Johnson basically said, no, you should be forced to make a cake if you're a Jew for a Nazi party. Which, Gary, what the fuck? I still support Gary, but man, that one doesn't make any sense. So let's start with Greg.
You sure?
All right, let's start with Seth, do you, as a man who,
Of the gay persuasion?
yeah, that, no homo.
Persuasion.
I mean, this is personal for you, I would imagine, on some level, right?
Yes and no.
Yes
but
and no?
To some level, yeah.
All right. And I guess it really shouldn't be. We have focused on the gay community versus the Christian community, but it really
Right.
could be anything in terms of the rights of association.
Right.
I mean, where do you come down on it? If you went into a baker and you were told that, I'm sorry, I'm not going to make your cake because you're a gay couple, I mean, how would that impact you?
So, first of all, I would just start with the only kind of a premise that the only moral transactions of property, money, goods, and services is one that's completely voluntary on all sides. If it's not, and you're working for somebody against your will, that's called slavery. If they're taking stuff of yours against your will, that's called theft. And being forced to buy a product, i.e. Obamacare, is somewhere in the middle of those two, I guess. Either way, if it's not voluntary, it's not moral, is how I come down on it. So, as much as, yes, nobody likes to walk into a place where you normally expect to get business, a cake made for you or whatever, and be turned down, especially because of, something like being gay or whatever, the fact of the matter is they're under no obligation to do business with you, no more than you're under any obligation to purchase from them. Discrimination gets a bad rep, and rightly so, given the context, but we have to understand at its core, discriminate just means to differentiate. And people discriminate every day. I discriminated against Apple when I refused to buy an iPhone and went with Android. It's what who you choose to do business with is certainly a right of a consumer, but it's also the right of the business owner. If they don't want to do business with a certain portion of the population, they don't have to.
Right. Greg?
Or they shouldn't be forced to.
Okay, are you... sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine. I mean, I could talk more about it, but...
You're allowed to.
That's a good starter, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll probably be long-winded, so I'll let Chloe go first if she wants to.
Well, now I feel like I'm not going to say enough because I don't want to piggyback off of you, but yes. Awesome, Seth. That's my thoughts exactly. And I guess I just kind of wanted to bring about a small example. I've only lived in the central Indiana area for, really like less than 3 years. And I think the only example that I can recall of any type of business discriminating against anyone was the 111 Cakery. I don't know if you've heard of it, remember it.
Where was it at?
I think it was on the Circle in Indianapolis, but I really can't remember. I just remember it was a bakery that was downtown.
I knew there was one on Talbot Street, of all places, which is just mind-bogglingly stupid. They're right in the middle of the neighborhood of Indianapolis, and they refuse.
I've never heard that.
And they refuse to, make wedding cakes for gay couples. Are you surprised when you go out of business?
Exactly.
Like literally, there are maybe 5 straight people within a 10 mile, like a 1 mile radius around you.
Should have prayed about it.
What are you?
There's Just Cookies. Right. Just Cookies is in the city market down the street from your office.
Right.
And they refuse to make a batch of cookies for an LGBT event at IUPUI, a local college.
Oh, okay.
So
I hadn't
maybe
heard of that one.
And don't forget the pizza place in the middle of buttfuck Indiana, where that was. Yeah.
Which was a phony, wasn't it? Like some sort
They're
of
rich
joke.
now.
Well,
very good marketing scheme depending on how you look at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, they never served any pizzas at any gay wedding. It was junk journalism from ABC 57 up in the South Bend market. But
That was the story. They wouldn't sell pizzas at gay weddings.
They were asked, what would you do? They were asked a hypothetical by a reporter, and they said, well, we probably wouldn't.
No gay person actually wanted pizza at their wedding. Let's just clarify
no
that.
One wanted that. So why are you writing a story based off of what ifs? But anyway, circle back. Basically, if you're not going to do business with whomever, as a business owner, you need to, 1, expect that story to get out. Two, expect social media backlash, depending on what it is, kind of like what I'm assuming Just Cookies got, and what I think it was Memories Pizza up in northern Indiana got.
That's what it
That
was.
was
Was it
Yeah.
DeMott?
No,
It was Markland.
which
Markland
is
is in my mind.
which is originally around where I'm from. But I mean, you kind of have to expect it. So, do whatever you want, run your business however you want, but be prepared to suffer the consequences.
Can I butt in there with a couple things?
Yeah, sure.
Just because you mentioned, like if a business does decide to discriminate against X demographic or whatever, expect it to get out and expect there to be media backlash. It's interesting because, and I mean, who knows? This could have been photoshopped. It's just a random picture I saw on Facebook, so take it with a grain of salt. But a Mexican restaurant that put a sign up saying, if you're visibly wearing any Trump stuff or supporting him, you're not welcome here. Sure. Now, liberals are just going apeshit, like, oh yeah, this is great, isn't this wonderful? But the same right of voluntary association for a Christian bakery to say we don't make cakes for gays, suddenly that's a problem. So it depends on what you're discriminating against. I imagine a black man who owns a catering service and refused to cater the KKK's lunch meal probably wouldn't get much bad heat from the press for it.
Right.
Yeah, don't tap that.
Tap what?
That stand.
Sorry.
That's okay. Gregory?
It's one of those things where I understand with Gary. Gary is the front runner in the election to be the Libertarian nominee. Rand Paul battled this issue as soon as he won his candidacy on the Rachel Maddow show, where she asked him.
Stupidly battled this issue.
But I mean, it is one of those issues that when you don't go into it like Donald Trump, absolutely certain and begging for someone to go against you, you end up losing because you backtrack, you waver, you waffle.
And if you go in like Donald Trump, then you just have a bunch of negative press against you.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of the way he goes about it. And so for Gary, I think Gary misread it. He read it as, we have to be reasonable. We have to appeal to a general electorate that doesn't have their political philosophy completely fleshed out on issues of voluntarism.
It's political.
They vote by feels.
I definitely think that's why he did it.
It is.
Meaning walking into that buzzsaw just does nothing but make you look like a 9/11 truther to most people.
Right. And it's it's politically toxic, and that's the reality of it is for Gary Johnson, the politics are that if you don't support everyone having the equal, if you support a Christian baker being able to turn down business from an LGBT couple or for a gay wedding, then you're just as bad as the white diner owner in Birmingham in the 1950s.
Absolutely.
Except that white diner owner was forced to, by the law, to
Right.
discriminate, whether he wanted to or not.
Right. He
Which
was
is-
empowered.
Yeah, which is completely different. And in most cases, I would say business in the free market does not encourage discrimination.
Right. And that is for me, it's simple. It's like Seth said, it's like Chloe said, voluntary exchange is the only moral option in any interaction you have with any other individual. The politics of it are, though, that it is the messaging are spun against you. Because, one of the crowning achievements of American history, especially of the generation that saw government as a sign of positivity and good, was the Civil Rights Act. Really, it was, the Lawyer Full Employment Act for, making sure there were violations for everything. But it doesn't matter. Politics is real. I mean, we can talk about it until we're blue in the face about whether philosophy should, take priority over politics. If you can't win elections, you can't affect change.
And you're not going to win elections saying what I just said.
Nope, you are going to
of
be a
course
racist.
not.
Or
No.
you're going to be a sexist. Or you're going to be a bigot or a homophobe. Or
If you are like me, where you're a part of the demographic that is potentially being discriminated against, people aren't going to in my experience, it just confuses people.
It does.
I've have been called a straight bigot before when foolishly arguing with somebody about this over Facebook because they just assumed I was straight, and they're like, "Oh, well, you don't even understand. You have no clue what it'd be like. Blah blah blah. Straight privilege and all this." And I just sent them a message because I wasn't out at the time, but sent them a message saying you assume too much, essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're just confused at that point, and they don't know what to say. So
I have a question for you, and,
Sure.
I know as someone that studied journalism, I know you don't speak for an entire group
No,
of
I'm pretty
people.
sure I do. Let's go
Well,
with that.
well,
Speaks for all the anarcho-capitalist gays here in Indiana.
Yes,
Exactly.
all one of them.
all of them. Do you feel, and this is something that as I've gotten older and graduated from college, I've noticed that there are a lot of people, especially around our age, that it's all groupthink. And do you feel that kind of applies to this topic in a way? That there are some people, especially, college age social justice warrior, that are like, well, if you refuse to do business, you're automatically, a bigot, or you're this, or
Why
you're
do
that.
you hate gay people?
Well, exactly. And you try to, reason with someone and try to explain your view, and they just really just can't get it at all.
So I don't know that the groupthink thing is something unique to people our age.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just human history. People are always in the groupthink kind of mindset. But yeah, it definitely does play a role in it, for sure. I mean, most people don't bother to think beyond whatever the main movements are, be it, leftist, feel the burn or whatever. But
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, a lot of it is we skip over, for instance, and it's an accumulation of things over a period of time for generations that snowball. And you look at today's millennial generation, and we're sort of the oldest end of the spectrum. And you guys, now, are you like the youngest?
I would say so.
That's what I
Probably.
thought so, yeah. And what our differences in culture and how we grew up are, I don't know that they're hugely different, but they are different in certain ways.
Definitely.
For me, and Chris was a year older than I was in high school. I don't know that I didn't know a gay. I don't think I knew anyone that was out of the closet in high school.
I mean, there were a couple guys that were out, but the amount of gay classmates that we had was probably 4 times larger.
Right,
I had a very close friend who was in my friend circle who was not out and never really dated girls, but like we were a product of our time where we said the F word all the time, and you would put people down by calling them gay because gay was something that we considered
synonymous
less
with
than.
the lesser.
Yeah, they were less than.
Yep.
And I looked him up on Facebook about 3 years ago, and I saw that he was a bartender in what's the Rhode Island town? The very
Providence,
Rhode Island, which is like the Castro of the East. I mean, it is a very gay-friendly town, and it's always historically been a gay town in Massachusetts, in Rhode Island. And like he was a bartender and leading parades. Like he became like the gay grand marshal, And I just sent him a note, and I just said, "Listen, I wish you had. I know that you couldn't be out, but I wish that you had said something at that time because I'm sure that what we were saying was actually really hurtful, and if we had known that it was hurting you, we wouldn't have said it, And because at that point we didn't know anybody who was gay." And that was such a powerful moment in Milk, in the Harvey Milk movie, which is one of the best political organizing movies of all time. Call a family member, and out yourself, because the more people that recognize that they have a coworker, friend, family member that is gay, they will see that you're not some sort of child molester.
That's definitely true.
You're not. Is it, since you've come out, because you came out fairly recently?
Summer 2015.
Yeah. So how was that experience in opening up to your family members? How did people react to that? And did you notice that change that because I think this is an important psychological thing. It's not just about coming out as gay. I think it's about being open, honest, vulnerable with who you are. And when we all do that, life gets better for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was raised in a pretty conservative Baptist home. So at church, every Sunday, more than that, probably 2-3 times a week. And I drank the Kool-Aid for the longest time. And for a while there, was pretty concerned about my salvation and things like that. And how can I be, gay and be a Christian at the same time and all of this. For me personally, once I eventually made peace with the whole God aspect of it, I mean, that was pretty much it. It's like, well, I've made peace with this. I'm not concerned about me going to hell or anything like that. I know God's not mad at me. Then there's nothing, like, I was ready to come out right then and there. Now, I didn't, which was good in hindsight. I'm really glad I waited until I'd finished college, was on my own, financially independent. And over, I guess, those time period, like, I just kind of became more disenfranchised with Christian circles. Because, I mean, let's face it, predominantly it's Christians who get bent out of shape about this.
Absolutely.
Bad ones.
I remember going to a church service in 2004, I think it was, and that was the gay marriage election.
Oh, boy.
And it was the temple. It was that big temple right over there at 65 and, like, Washington Street that you can see as Calvary Temple here in Indianapolis. I'll call them out. It was the most bigoted, anti-gay sermon I've ever heard in my life. It was so insanely offensive and awful. I mean, it was that there is just a level of indoctrination. And as a Christian, I find it absolutely disgraceful that we have chosen to make this the supreme sin.
The hill to die defending,
Yeah, because you know what that's done? That's killed the evangelical church. It's killed the Republican Party. And it's not even... like God mentions homosexuality like 3 times in the Bible.
I think it's about 6.
Yeah, but
what's interesting, and I always, just real quick, because I always bring this up whenever people try and throw Bible verses at me, is let's go ahead and I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. We can assume that all 6 of those verses that, you know, Paul or whoever is talking about homosexuality. Now, that's debatable. Certainly, you know, the one Greek word that's only used in that case, whole nother different discussion. There's good points on both sides as to what he's actually talking about there. But let's just assume it's all homosexuality that Paul's condemning. Even if that's the case, there are 6 times as many verses in the Bible that condemn obesity and gluttony. And so I will take any Christian who tries to throw Bible verses at me seriously when they are giving the fat people at their church the same level of shit they give me.
Making a minister.
Yeah. When there's ministers and church deacons
John
that
Hagee.
are morbidly obese and, you know, TD Jakes, and nobody says anything to them, it's just...
they're not gay.
Yeah, it's being selective about which sins we're going to blast people on.
Which we can fundraise on.
Yeah.
and that's really
definitely
the key.
true.
Is there... Someone asked me the other day why gay marriage...
And spoiler alert, being fat is actually a choice.
I was born this way, motherfucker. No, someone asked me the other day, like, why do they keep bringing up gay marriage and abortion? And I looked at them and I said, listen, there are just a few issues that you can fundraise on the left and the right left, because the general public does not give a crap about politics, and most of the people that pay attention to politics don't care about politics. Man, you talk about gay marriage, abortion, gun rights, like those 3, then your Facebook pops, your donations pop, your engagement pops, your
You're going to have a
volunteer
show
roles
after
pop.
Greta Van Susteren on Fox News.
Right. Like, you're going to get on the news. And so these groups, these local advocacy groups, for instance, here in Indiana, Micah Clark, Eric, what's his face? What's his name? Eric Miller.
Yeah.
And Advance in America, the Indiana Family Institute. These groups, you know, they use legislators that are lawyers. They use them as their lawyers. They hold fundraisers for those legislators. They actively campaign for those legislators. And then those legislators reward them by putting forth legislation that benefits that particular group. And it doesn't matter how many times the governor and the head of the House and the Senate look at their caucuses every session and say, don't do anything stupid that might embarrass us, like RFRA. They do it anyways.
Right.
And have something to run on in Iowa.
And it's because
How'd that work out for you?
these groups need to sustain themselves, and they want to have a new Cadillac. So they divide Americans because of money. Mm-hmm. That's how this works. It doesn't matter. And there are definitely true believers.
For sure.
But so you were talking about coming out.
Yeah, to finish, I guess what I was saying there. So by the time I actually did come out, I had very few Christian friends, and I just was very disenfranchised from Christian circles. I wasn't involved in it a lot, and so most of the people in my life, with the exception of my family, that I actually cared about, actually already knew. I was out to friends, and so that made it a lot easier because I had a lot of people supporting me who already had known for years in some cases. and all that. And so it was really just, I was in a good position where I could, aside from family, there was nobody really close to me who I thought would take objection to it. And even with that, sometimes it was interesting. I'd get messages from people on Facebook who were actually positive in supporting me, which I never would have expected. And got some concerned messages, but by and large, those kind of people, and maybe it was just more my case. I mean, I'm sure it would have been different if I was actively involved in the church, but they tend to just ignore you, and it's just like you don't exist. And, when you do see those people in person, it's a lot of like awkward stares and stuff like that. It's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. And even amongst my family today, I mean, as you could probably guess, they weren't thrilled at the news. And we had lots of, conversations about it and stuff like that. But, the good news is they haven't like cut me out completely. It's not, disowning me or never talk to you again. Of course, they want me to be straight or marry a girl or whatever, or at the very least be gay and celibate. But it's even now, I would say with my family, it's kind of a don't ask, don't tell policy.
Right.
And,
it's a gag order.
Yeah, occasionally it'll get brought up, but usually not. And I think that's... I think it's kind of like, because I've also, been single all this time since I did come out. If there's somebody else, if I have a boyfriend, that's when it really kind of puts the pressure on my family to see how they're going to react. Just because until then you're kind of like gay in theory, because they haven't seen any difference in you really.
Right.
It's still the same. It's your son, the same guy you've known, his whole life. And
your haircut and clothing has changed dramatically from when I knew Seth.
Oh,
Straight and cap.
Yeah. you
the idealistic and cap.
You were such a libertarian nerd.
I was,
and you dressed like a libertarian nerd, and then you walk in here today in your tight little shirt and your suave haircut and your baby blues, and you're just
yeah. Well,
I can tell him he's a handsome man. Don't make that face at Chloe like I'm doing something inappropriate.
I wasn't. I swear to
I'm comfortable in my sexuality.
Well, plus he said no homo before the show.
Yeah.
Hashtag.
Yeah.
I said, listen, I am all for equality. I'm gonna hit on Chloe. I'm gonna hit on you. Right, Chloe?
Weirdo.
It's the only thing. It's the right thing to do.
Sound very non-aggressive at all.
Oh, trust me, it's non-aggressive.
Yeah. So all I have to say on that is people change, and I definitely was, socially awkward libertarian for a long time, and
that's kind of
things
redundant.
Now you're
Oh yeah, I know.
Now you're a libertarian.
Now you're socially awkward gay libertarian.
Working on the social bit, but yeah.
Yeah. So listen.
So what's your deal?
She literally asked you what your
Student
deal
body
was.
president, Miss Ball State. What's your deal?
So what do you do?
As long as it's
man.
not you reciting an answer on world peace, I guess you'll be all right.
World peace.
No, but so the question is though, it is tough because the politics are in the messaging. The advantage is on the other side, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
and it will be hung over Gary Johnson's head by those internally, and it will continue to be.
There was a lot in that debate where Gary was answering like a front-runner presidential candidate, where he would say something along the lines of, yeah, I don't want to say definitively that this might happen, but in theory, I would believe this. Mm-hmm. Very,
he's answering like he's debating Clinton and Trump.
Exactly.
And which he's not yet.
Right, mm-hmm. But he understands in this day and age that whatever he says in that debate can be used against him later, and so if he's going to be for discrimination, that's going to come back and bite him in the butt for the people who want to go and support him, but he's got that thing where he hates gay people that they don't like.
Can we point out that this never would have been brought up in the debate had it not been for Austin Peterson?
Why?
Because I'd have to go back and watch the actual thing, but if you watch Stossel, it wasn't never a question that Stossel asked. It was just Gary said something, and then Austin butted in. Oh, and he also said that gay people, or that a Christian baker should be forced to make gays a cake. Austin brought that up.
Austin's looking for ways to stand out against Gary Johnson because they're just very, very similar. And, the first thing being pro-life. He's a staunch proponent of advertising that, but then I'm pro-life, but I won't tell you what to do with your uterus. Which I'm sorry, but that's totally okay.
Yeah,
whatever that means.
Out. Whatever.
Yeah. And then the other one is on the element of, force non-discrimination for private business. And that is one he thinks he can hit, political home runs with. And the reality is,
amongst who? Libertarian nerds? Certainly nobody mainstream.
You have to understand the element. There's the race. Libertarian Party we've discussed before is a little bit different than a primary, and so he's running. Austin's actually the one who's running like this is a primary, not going around winning delegates and securing delegates. He's running it like it's a national presidential campaign, not going around and courting long-term volunteers who've worked really hard and saying he values all their contributions and he hopes to be able to present them well. He's more of the kind where I'm going to come in, burn all the boats. You're all wrong. Let me show you how it's done. Vote for me.
And let me use memes as my sound bites.
Right.
That's great.
And it'll score. The problem is these conventions, California had their convention last weekend and they only had 68 attendees at a, what do they have, 20 million people? Or how many?
What state was this?
California.
Oh.
Which has a strong libertarian footprint. They're a Republican Party for, they're not libertarian, but they're, completely socially liberal and then fiscal conservatives.
I've just always assumed California was a statist hellhole.
A state of what?
A statist hellhole.
It is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is because of the, the cartels, the Democratic cartels that remain in power. But, it's one of those things, though, where it's tough. We wouldn't want our candidate, we wouldn't want Gary Johnson in a national debate with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, and the question to come up over a RFRA, or like in Mississippi, they just passed a law, which is relevant because the law doesn't give you the right to refuse to sell to a gay couple. A Christian baker is not given the right. They're given the right to not be forced to make, essentially making a cake is free speech. And it's based upon a ruling from 1943 about whether or not Jehovah's Witnesses have to stand during the Pledge of Allegiance.
They can't be forced to write "Jesus loves gays" on the cake
if
they disagree with it.
Yep, compelled. Yeah. And so that actually makes sense. That's a law where, granted, distinction doesn't have much of a place in today's modern political discourse. But it is one of those times where I understand not compelling someone's speech, but I think you can have a distinction on they can't even enter the shop. No one,
Oh, sure.
And I don't mean that because in principle, I believe just like you guys. But if I'm a presidential candidate, I need to walk a tightrope somehow, or else I have no shot.
The answer, if you're a presidential candidate, is don't say anything. Take a no comment. That'll do less damage.
Or say, I would never force Anne Frank to sell Nazi cakes to Hitler.
Again, this wouldn't have been brought up in that debate had it not been for Austin Peterson, and I kind of despise him for bringing it up.
But I'm not gonna hurt it. The guy's running. He's running to win.
He's trying to damage.
Can you be against a guy because he's running to win?
And he's
I can if he's an insufferable douchebag.
You can, and you're entitled to that right. In that opinion.
Yeah, I think it was. He had probably known that this was something that Gary would say and wanted to dent him a little bit, and I do think it worked. I think our good friend Roger Paxton of the Lava Flow podcast, he went from a firm Gary supporter to, oh shoot, now what do I do? So it did have some effect, but
one guy's a fugitive and the other's a Republican,
right? I mean, exactly, and so that's kind of my question is.
I actually like John McAfee after the end of that debate.
I thought it was fantastic.
I know, because he's batshit crazy and you love it.
No, I would never vote for him. He would never get my vote.
Yeah. I liked him too, though.
But I thought he added so much to that debate, it would have been the biggest nerd fest in history.
Yeah.
If he had, he just has a natural charisma that you can't teach. And he's just got an ability to nail the one-liner.
Have you seen the video I shared where he tells people how to uninstall McAfee? Software.
Yes, I have.
My god, that shit's hilarious.
Yeah,
it's basically like I'll give you the TLDR of it. It's like him in a bathrobe, which a bunch of white powder, which were led to assume is cocaine, and strippers and guns and like all this stuff around.
He's Tony Montana.
Yeah, and he's like, I sold the company 15 years ago, and people still ask me how do I uninstall the damn thing after it's undergone 15 years of evolution, and I have nothing to do with the company. And he ends up just shooting the laptop in the end, and that's like, that's how. And it's hilarious. And you're like, the guy's batshit insane, and he's running for president. Like, I'm behind him completely. He's my pick of the three.
He definitely has like that movie star, like a B movie president. Yeah, I feel like it really isn't that hard of a choice for me. I mean, there are things that Gary said that I didn't like, and I haven't gone back and really dive deep into what they talked about. But for me, Nick Gillespie actually on Reason today put out an article, said, Can we nominate Gary Johnson already? He's the most credible in your field. He's the one that is already getting polling for him. He's already getting,
just keep
media.
him off of media.
I'll concede to
His
that
reputation
on a national level,
is a more valuable asset than his actual presence.
I could say that. I mean, John Stossel was tweeting that night because it was a pre-taped debate, and Gary has this thing where he wants to talk about everything but politics.
These are my wife or my fiance and my kids, and look, I climb mountains and all this other random bullshit that has nothing to do. And nobody cares.
And then Austin Austin comes in and just smashes you, and it's just like, oh man, we need you to be more firm and direct and presidential. Go ahead, say it. You can say your opinion.
I said when he called him a pussy in the first debate. When he called Trump a pussy, I was talking to some brutalists who all are shockingly anarchists, but they all are for Trump. And I was thinking about it, and
Gross.
Chris said, Chris told me that Gary had said it, and I go, to be honest, what the difference is that I want somebody that's going to shoot Putin, not try to climb him. And that's the reality. Because Gary has a resume that is impeccable. I wrote an article today about this, about on paper, without the LR or D, he wins 51% of the vote if people just read resumes against Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, period.
Well, and I think so much of this election is coming down to, I don't like Hillary. I don't like Trump.
And
so
Ted Cruz is worse.
Well, and he eats boogers.
Yeah, he's a booger eater.
And is probably the Zodiac
Lion
killer.
Ted.
Exactly.
He was
So
definitely in Striper.
of course he was.
Whatever the Christian rock band.
Some Christian metal
Whatever
band
that
or
is.
something. Yeah.
But
right.
no,
You
you're
so
right.
People are like, well, what's my third option? Gary Johnson. Okay, he has some experience. Great.
I mean, he's
know?
got impeccable experience.
Oh,
Yeah.
of course.
Especially for like he's got the private enterprise experience, building Jay's handy service and selling it.
I hate to be cynical, but can I call it now? He's not like he's going to end up getting like 1% like he did last year. Like people are saying, oh, so many people hate Clinton, so many people hate Trump. He's going, everyone's going to rush to Gary. No, they're not. They're going to look at Clinton and Trump and say, who do I want to not win, and then vote for the other.
But there's still a sin for the Libertarian Party not to put forth the most credible option just in case. I mean,
Right.
He was polling.
Oh, sure, put Gary up there rather than McAfee. He's hilarious, but
Yeah, he's
Johnson
he's
can go.
Trump. He's Trump. Like, why would you put him up?
McAfee?
Yes.
You think he's Trump?
Yes.
I wouldn't
He's sharp
go that
though. I mean, like he's so relevant with the post Snowden world.
He absolutely is, but he has the same temperament questions that I have with Donald Trump.
Really?
I liked him. I liked his answers, but when you have to, in a debate, say, I didn't kill anybody, like, that's sort of a problem.
I love how he answered that, because he didn't say that he didn't kill anybody. He said, I was never charged with murder. Which is, like, my roommate and I were watching that, and we just looked at each other and were like, oh, shit, there's somebody running for president who probably murdered somebody.
And not until they became president. Before.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Obama and Bush, those people murdered plenty, but...
And they just waited till they got there.
Yeah.
His murder record's the same as Laura Bush.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, I mean, and so that, I guess, how it ties in is we haven't really set up the LGBT or the law in North Carolina. You want to segue into that?
Yeah, so North Carolina has a new bill. I feel like we've kind of flushed out the gay cake baker issue. Are there any final thoughts on that maybe you didn't get in, or you, Seth?
I guess I'll just say this for the 3 gay people that are listening to this who might be like, oh my God, my rights are being violated. I get it from a personal level, I suppose. The gay people, for all the shit we've had to deal with, we are fortunate in that there is no physical identifier. You can't hide the fact that you're black 99% of the time. You can't hide the fact that, you're a woman or whatever. So if people are going to discriminate you on those basis, like, it's very obvious. With being gay or not, I mean, for half your life you have to pass as straight anyways, and so it's very hard to just put up, to look at somebody and tell and turn them away. So we really haven't had it that bad. It's when it comes down to buying flowers for loved ones or cakes, for a wedding. That's when it becomes obvious, oh, this person's gay.
Frankly, I would rather know where the bigoted businesses are, right?
Well, yeah, and
I mean, here's
That's
what I'd
dangerous,
say.
though.
It sucks.
I mean,
it sucks that somebody had their feelings hurt, and nobody's advocating for that. But the basis of libertarianism is that it's freedom of association. If I don't like Chloe's values and morals and ethics, then I don't have to associate with her. But I like her morals, ethics, and values.
That isn't what you told me. You said she's on the podcast. Get over it.
Right.
She thinks.
And so we associate. And so if you walk in and you are denied service at a restaurant for whatever reason, let's not make it a special case because it's X, Y, or Z.
I mean, boycott that restaurant to no end.
Yeah.
Shout it from the rooftops. Just
or
don't advocate for the government to come in and stop that, because, and I'm going to get real ANCAP on you here,
sure.
but what what that's going to is you've got to be willing to kill the owner of that restaurant if they don't serve you. Every law is enforced by violence. And ultimately, if you're not willing to hold a gun up to someone's head and put a bullet through their brain, don't support it for a law, because that's how the government enforces everything. And, if you are one of those people who, because when we were watching that spot with Gary, my roommate, she's feeling the burn and all that. She was, ecstatic, like, yay, Gary. And I'm just like, oh, gross. And then was horrified to find out that I had to agree with Austin Peterson on that one thing. But
the hatred is real.
oh, he's insufferable. Anyways, so, when you do, and I was, talking to her about this, like when you do find your, explaining all that, and she gets it, and maybe this is just her being non-confrontational, wanting to dismiss it, but she was like, yeah, I do it anyways. If you're seriously willing to kill somebody because they won't serve you a cake, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like seriously, and I mean, that just boggles my mind. When we get to that point and people still say, yes, I realize it's force, yes, I realize it's violence, and I don't care, my feels trump all that. But I don't know what to say.
But the thing is, I don't think people realize that there's violence on the other end. Because I think people are so, in that red, white, and blue cloud of, oh, well, the government's going to always take care. Well, and I don't believe this, but, the government's going to take care of me. And, this is why I need this. And this is why we need, socialized medicine and blah, blah,
Rationality
blah, blah, blah.
always rises above.
Tell me about how government took care of you pre-Lawrence v. Texas.
Right.
Tell me about that. Please, go on. I'm interested.
Right.
Which is, explain that for the listeners.
Lawrence v. Texas was the Supreme Court case that overturned several state laws that essentially made sodomy illegal. So you could be, two gay dudes, completely voluntary, any homosexual sexual activity, even in the privacy of your own home, illegal, and you could go to jail for it. This isn't in America, but this was the UK, prior to what was it, the 50s or 60s when it finally got overturned. But
Alan Turing.
Yeah, he got fucked over by that. If it was discovered that you were gay, your choices were castration or prison.
Or they'd use, for him it was hormone therapy that made him kill himself.
Yeah.
Alan Turing.
Oh, I thought he just killed himself before they
made him do a hormone therapy, and it was that's why he killed himself.
See, and if I was him, I would have sold everything I had, bought as many guns and ammo as I could, and just burned the nearest police station to the ground. Because that shit's unacceptable.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, maybe I don't know. That's just
he wasn't certain whether or not that was the issue. When you're in an environment where everyone believes something different than you. You can. It's hard to be 100% certain that you're correct.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, and
so
I say that as a gay millennial in 2016,
right?
If and an ANCAP for that matter. If I was in that time period, I'm sure it would have been different.
Right.
But
a prestigious member of society.
Yeah, but my point is, if you're a cop and you're enforcing laws like that, you're a piece of shit. Plain and simple.
So, you have strong opinions on this.
I do.
I hope he answered his question. I mean, he interpreted it as us having a right to racism. And I don't interpret it that way. I don't see that that's a binary choice, that you're either for good or you're for bad. And this is a much more gray
Right.
area where, listen,
Would he enforce Anne Frank to sell swastika cakes to Hitler?
right.
Does the gay owner of a hotel have to rent rooms out to the traveling members of Westboro Baptist Church when they pick at a soldier's funeral?
Right.
I would
Or-
argue they should and troll the shit out of them, but you do what you want.
Oh, give them the horrible room service and whatnot.
Fundamentally, when we
Trash
So
everywhere.
fun.
when we force the government to enforce our morals, it creates the tools that allows the other side to enforce their morals and principles and values and ethics on us. And so libertarians believe that we should just handle that in the private sector. I of course there are activists that go and target businesses like wedding photographers, cake bakers, and those people are assholes. And you know what you do is you just end up empowering that business, like the pizza company that like got
Chick-fil-A.
yeah,
Depot.
Chick-fil-A.
The Chick-fil-A
Free speech
effect,
chicken.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, if you go back and you look through our episodes, we have an episode called Chick-fil-Gay.
Do we really?
Yeah,
That's impressive.
This
I
is
love
Very
that.
clever.
This is a very early episode where we had Evan McMahon, who was at one time a very well-known gay rights blogger when it wasn't cool to be a gay rights blogger by any stretch of the imagination. A good friend of myself and many local libertarians. And we break down this entire issue. We talked about it a couple times. So if you're more interested in a deeper dive from a bunch of different perspectives, you can go back and look through past episodes.
And a lot of it has to do with how the law is crafted and set up. So, for instance, like with RFRA, what was going on is a lot of libertarians came in Indiana where what happened was it looked like a special rights of citizens were created for the Christian right. And the idea for a lot of libertarians was that by doing this, we can pass a law and increase freedom, which is a paradox.
Technically, well, yeah. I was going to say technically yes, but
Yeah, but it's for a special segment. You know, it further enhances Article 1, I guess you could say. You know, and so most of the discussion, which is, again, you're not going to get this in America's current discourse environment. You're not going to get the ability to properly set up nuance and set up how the law is applied and the differences between an outright ban or empowering and creating a special group of citizens. And like with Georgia and then Mississippi passing their law, and I mean, the reality is, the Supreme Court ruled you cannot have a gay marriage ban in your state constitution, your state constitution. But there are ways to backdoor discrimination in the name of freedom. I know it sounds crazy, but you actually can, because the way a law's intent is rarely its result.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and so that's what we repeatedly see. And for me, with Gary Johnson, it's simple. Like, I am a purist on this issue, on voluntary exchange, but the reality of it is, as reality approaches, the cost, or, you know, idealism, or as, I guess you could say, God, it's just so hard to put right. It's sometimes the breaking the eggs of small government are worth the omelet. I don't know. Like, you know, there are just certain times where the politics are so toxic, staking your claim on that in the public arena sets back your cause and your party and your position for ever.
and we can say all this because none of us are running for president.
Yeah.
If
Right.
you're
So,
Gary
Right.
Johnson, you
Right.
Let
That's
them-
right. We can be martyrs.
so let them eat gay Nazi cake.
Yes.
So let's move on to North Carolina. Something's happening in the Dogwood State.
So back
I just made that up.
back in February, the Charlotte City Council approved an ordinance that strengthens protections against discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identification, and it had one provision that stipulated transgender men may use men's restrooms and transgender women may use women's restrooms. That provision created quite a ruckus. And so I believe it was a special session was called in, right?
I think so.
And it was one day long, and the North Carolina legislature quickly passed a bill that overruled it, saying that the Charlotte Ordinance defies common sense and basic community norms. That was the quote by Governor Pat McCrory once he signed the bill into passage. And so under the new bill, the policy is that North Carolinians will have to use the restroom corresponding to the sex denoted on their birth certificates. So if your birth certificate says male, you have to use the male restroom. Now, the thing is, too, they did create a way for you to change it on your birth certificate. So If you go, you can go back and change the birth certificate to female once you undergone the process and use the female facilities.
They have to go back.
I've been advocating for that forever. The only way to make America great again is elimination.
They gotta go back.
And a human catapult right in El Paso.
They gotta go back.
But it's what ended up happening was North Carolina, if you're familiar with the area, Raleigh, Durham. You okay?
Go on.
Okay, I thought I said something offensive. I thought I just triggered him.
He did. He looked triggered.
Yeah. It's like, what'd I say? Triangle? Research triangle? Yeah, so they've, in the research triangle of Raleigh, Durham, and Charlotte, PayPal was getting ready to build a facility with 400 jobs. They announced they would not be fulfilling that obligation and instead would be looking to house it elsewhere and build elsewhere. Correspondingly, Google Ventures, which is their venture capital arm that funds a lot of the biotech startups and technology startups in that triangle, announced they would no longer be funding any healthcare or biotech startups. And we've kind of just slowly seen a steamroll come down the hill where it's become politically popular among tech companies to announce that, like in Indiana, we had the same thing with Salesforce.com. They acquired ExactTarget, a local company, and they said they would not be expanding and even considering moving, which would be a devastating effect on the Indianapolis economy. But for me, I talked with you guys a little bit before. Like I find the law. I don't know. Do you need to stipulate who can use which restroom?
How are you going to even be able to enforce that? Like, what is the point of using taxpayer money? You can't enforce it.
Yeah,
right?
This is another one of those stupid, idiotic things that they're solving a problem that doesn't exist.
Right. It's all hypotheticals.
Right.
And it's public. It's publicly financed facilities, right? So it really wouldn't affect PayPal.
No, not at all.
Private companies dictate their own rules on that.
Right. But just to make a point, and I mean, again, when we're talking about, freedom to associate and everything like that, these huge companies come out and they cause, I don't want to say a ruckus because I think it is ridiculous. And if I was the CEO of a company, I would probably do the same thing. But now they're like, well, we're not going to be here anymore. And it's like, fine, absolutely. If you believe that, this is absolutely ridiculous, then you don't have to be here.
Right.
Which is
that
totally
is their
fine.
option too.
That's their option.
Yeah. It's I tell you, it's the government dictating norms in publicly financed areas, and I mean, God, talk about slippery slopes. This is where we're at. Mm-hmm. We're down to the point where government is passing ordinances and laws that say whatever's on your birth certificate is where you have to pee. And but if you decide to pull a Caitlyn Jenner, or you decide to damn it, I don't want to say evolve because it's a terrible description, and not transform either. If you decide to undergo that process and complete it, you can go back to
transition.
That's I was having a brain fart and it didn't come out, and all the other ones
Trans
sounded
is
awful.
not short for transform.
What are you talking about? I was told Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
Transformers.
It's
more
Olivia
than meets
Prime.
the
Olivia
eye.
Prime.
Transform into a cuck.
Don't ever talk to me or Optimus Prime ever again.
Love it.
But, that's where we are now. Like, we're legislating that whatever's on your birth certificate, the sex, dictates where you can pee. You have a process where you can go down to the city county building, fill out a form, verify it with doctor's evidence. I imagine. I'm sure they're not just going to let anyone, uncheck that box.
Probably like a dick pic.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Think about it. That's the verification standard. A notarized dick pic.
It's like, can you sign this? Okay.
I know.
And how do you know that's yours? I mean, that could have just been any random one you got on the internet.
Just
Like,
the NCAA.
do you have to shoot it from the ground up so your face is in the shot as well?
I have
honestly
no idea.
You sound like you're an expert at taking dick pics, Seth.
No comment.
He had the whole angle figured out and everything.
You should open a consulting business that facilitates the transition
Official
process.
notarized dick pics.
Yes. You just stumbled onto a market.
Could you
There you
imagine?
go.
I could find all my employees on Grindr. It would be great. Like, they've got plenty of experience doing this.
Winning.
We can have Chloe open up a Tinder account and expand
No.
into a new market of straight guys.
No. That's
Come on. Listen, this is business, okay? It's not personal.
Tinder is creepy. I'm sorry.
That's
but
right.
it's
That's
all
what
just
we want.
terrible.
We're looking for creepy.
No.
We
You
need.
think
just
Tinder is creepy? Spend a day on Grindr and come back to me.
yeah, because there's like if you're dating a woman, there's limits. You know, there's boundaries. They say no.
If you're gay, you are already breaking every social construct and norm, so nobody gives a shit.
Yeah,
That's
Right.
how it goes.
the governor is off. Let's go full steam.
You know, I have a solution to this whole bathroom thing. Go at home, because public bathrooms are gross enough as it is.
Amen.
You know what I mean? Like, what's the point? Like, I don't know
Talk
about
about
you
white
guys.
privilege.
Right, exactly.
You just
but-
assume people have restrooms in their homes.
Oh, and
course
running,
you
and
do.
running water.
Yeah.
There we
and
go.
running water
Yeah.
and electricity. I'm terrible.
God.
But I mean, to be honest, the Nora Post Office, the one that's closest to me, I don't know if you guys have ever been there. It has like less than 1 star on Facebook. Like, it is a terrible post office. Could you imagine using that bathroom? Like, unless you really, really have to go, I would much rather run to Target. You know, the
It's a
privately
bit
owned
different
company.
for guys because
Well,
it's a
yeah,
little
'cause you guys
less.
don't
It's less
care.
intensive. It's it's
Well,
spray
yeah.
and pray. Or
Exactly.
wait,
What? Spray and pray?
gets in there. I don't know.
What is this? Oh, this is great.
No,
We'll explain it later.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
You know, but isn't it amazing? Because then I kind of see the other side of it. In the absence of this law, someone, I mean, and I know it's the hypothetical that doesn't exist that
Right.
is the path to hell for, this discussion, but they did find, what was it? The only time where someone got actually beat up or there was violence involved was when they were forced to go into the one on their birth certificate. There
Yeah.
wasn't an existing case they could identify, and over 400 attorneys going through
Something
in
crazy
states,
like that.
they couldn't find a single example where the person was a pedophile pretending to be XYZ hiding in a stall.
It's the
Yeah.
same argument as gun-free zones, right? Conservatives ought to realize this. No shooter is going to walk up to school and be like, "Oh shit, there's a sign that says no guns," and walk away.
Oh,
like,
I have to leave.
you
Right.
know. And I'm sorry, but no child molester or pedophile is going to walk up to the bathroom and see some sign and be like, "Oh, damn it! Oh shit! Guess I'll have to go to the local park instead." Like, it's
Right.
not going to happen.
yeah.
Right.
You know,
And
if they are on the prowl to do that kind of thing, your law isn't going to mean anything.
And that is the fundamental assumption here, is that somebody like Maya, who is one of the most ethical and moral, we may not agree with her ethics and morals at times, but she is one of the most ethical and moral people I've ever known, who wants to, live the NAP. She's not a child molester. And that is exactly what they want to try and force that narrative and create that association when that's just not the case.
Yeah.
At all.
And I can't even imagine from Maya, because, like, just as a gay guy, I've had people say to me, essentially wondering, like, is this a child molester thing? Which is mind-bogglingly stupid. Like,
What?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Yes, as a gay guy,
Yep.
Good
since
Lord.
I came out, I've had people say, well, do you want to, like, rape kids as well?
Shut up.
No,
That's
true
Oh
story.
my gosh.
Fucked up.
True story. And yeah, the fact that I have to explain to people how two grown men choosing to do whatever in the bedroom is completely different from raping children. Like, having to explain that differentiation it's just so stupid. But it has happened to me. And and that's for, like, gay, where, like, gay is kind of, conservative Christians a lot of them don't get it. But they can at least try to sit there and think and understand. But for trans, like, that is a whole new level of what you're asking them to understand.
Yeah.
I'll be completely honest. I don't even fully understand all the trans stuff. I'm not hateful towards it or anything like that at all. Completely support them. And maybe it's just because me personally, I've always identified as a man, never had any question about that. I do not understand it on a personal level. And
the gender confusion or
yeah, I mean, it
cognitive
maybe,
dissonance,
and
dissonance
maybe
from it.
that's no different than a straight guy saying I could never understand wanting to do anything with another guy. Like, and I completely get it, and again, no hatred or anything on my part. Completely support them, but it's just so much worse for conservative Christians who are really out there and don't get any of it to try and understand what a trans person is doing.
Especially because homosexuality's been with us since 500 years before Christ, like in Athens. So this isn't something that's like, so taboo and so...
Let's not put a time limit on. I'm sure that it went all the way back to Og and
Adam and Steve.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
but like we have it well documented in like the dialogues.
Og and Magog were kind of eyeing each other one day when they're out on a hunt.
Even then, I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to with the Athens
Plato's
things.
Republic.
Yeah, so that may be... Like, I imagine that homosexuality is different from that. Was this when the...
It's the foundations in NAMBLA,
Yeah.
National.
American Man Boy Love Association.
Yeah, but
Sort of like mentorship
It was.
and
Don't
stewardship.
give me that look, Spangle. There was a whole thing about it on Oprah.
But see, that's like... See, in my eyes, and maybe I'm just not informed about enough, that seems like some borderline pedophilia type
Oh, it was.
stuff.
It's
It
not
was.
out.
Or is
It's
it
not
definitely?
borderline.
No, it's not borderline.
It's
It was
full
exploitation
on.
for sure.
Okay, so...
in the name of stewardship and creating good
See,
citizens.
I don't know that I would call that homosexuality even, because that's completely different from...
No, that's mental illness.
Yeah,
Like-
but it was the common norm of that society.
But
Right.
that's what the Man Boy Love Association is trying to say, is that it is natural, it's historical, it's fine.
Oh, okay. I see.
yeah,
I'm
that's-
trying with
that's
you
the
now.
context.
Sorry, I
But
was just confused
The
there.
problem is that guy may have those feelings, but there is psychological evidence that once you awaken that part in a child, it damages their psyche forever. I mean, it's not.
But like even
it's
the
not
warriors in Sparta that
natural,
were
it's-
that they were brothers in war. They would have homosexual relations, and it wasn't weird. It wasn't odd.
Well, they said no homo to each other before they did.
Right.
You know,
It
they
makes it okay.
kicked Persians in the chest down a well.
I think a lot of things because I kind of agree. When I was growing up, did we probably have kids in my high school that were gay? I went to a school that had less than 300 kids in my class, so it
Yeah.
was very, very small. We probably did, but as our culture continues to have people that are LGBTQ in the media, in TV shows, singers, designers, whatever, I think when we start having more people that are trans in our culture, and that's
Yeah.
starting to become a norm,
First to the wall.
Well, exactly. And I don't know if you guys watched the Oscars or watched many movies, but the Danish Girl won a couple Oscars this year.
Eddie Redmayne.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that was.
I've heard of it. I've not seen the film.
I
Very
haven't
good.
seen it yet. It looks really good, but that is basically about, I think, the first transgender surgery. I believe.
First successful transgender surgery, like in what 19
Was it the 40s? Or
40s,
so?
yeah, 40s,
Yeah,
40s or earlier.
Earlier in Denmark. Am I right?
in Denmark, and I mean it's phenomenal.
It looked really good. I need to watch it, but I mean that's an example. It's 2016, and that's at least to my knowledge is one of the first films that we have that openly talks about transgendered issues in a historical context.
Right. And what's funny is I'm a big golf fan, and I was just watching the women's tour has their first major of the year last week, the Dinah Shore Open, and Caitlyn Jenner was in the Celebrity Pro-Am, the first, and she made tons of press because she holed out on her second shot into the green and made an eagle, and was an incredible representative. I've always been a big, I was a big Bruce Jenner fan. I'm a big Caitlyn Jenner fan. She's incredibly articulate. She's passionate about virtually everything. And the transition hasn't changed what she believes. It may have opened eyes and made her consider new views, but to me, I mean, I don't know. I just sat there and watched it, and it never occurred to me that was Caitlyn and not Bruce, or that it was Bruce and not Caitlyn. It was just the person that I've known that was occasionally invited to be on Sean Hannity's roundtables,
Right.
which I'm sure probably won't happen in the long run.
If you want to know more about trans issues, if you're curious, we have a podcast for you. It's called Creating Maya. It's on iTunes. It's about Maya's transition. That first season, Maya's still going through, just had come out, and
So I was halfway through that first season when the
Yeah.
website went down.
yeah, she wanted it pulled down, but I put it all back up because I own it, and I said, F you, Maya. And so then we kind of
My
reconciled.
IP, bro.
It's my IP.
My IP.
Her story, my
Her
IP.
IP.
There's no saving it now.
And Maya and I talked, and she's all for it because she's, she sees it as a positive in her life now. At one point, we took it down because it was something she
So
felt
the
was
site
negative.
itself is back up?
Creating Maya is not back up,
Okay.
creatingmaya.com, but if you go to wearelibertarians.com, you can get the podcast, search for it in any podcast player.
Well, I'll have to continue that.
Yeah, and so I think you'll get a lot out of that first of the second season, because we wanted to call it a second season because it's a totally different season
Right.
than Maya before. So
And I did look out for that podcast because I did want to try and learn more and understand more about it.
And that's why we did it. I mean, it's somebody that at that time I was, I've always been open-minded, but I guess I wasn't as open-minded as I am now. And I certainly was, when your best friend comes to you and you're an evangelical Christian and they say they want to become a woman when they're the most masculine man you know, which makes sense now looking back, it does throw you for a loop. And so instead of doing it in private, I just believe in shortcuts in terms of efficiency. Everybody was going to come up and ask Maya all these questions that I had. So I said, why don't we just do this so you don't have to have those emotional conversations that you can't handle.
Imagine it'd get tiring, repeated the same answers
and
to the same
so
questions. Yeah.
All you got to do is just say, go listen to my podcast. Mm-hmm. So go check it out.
Cool.
And just to pick up on a point that Chloe had made, it's definitely right, and this goes back to something we'd even said earlier. 10 years time has completely made the difference.
Oh yeah.
I would hate to be your age, Greg, and be gay. And I have friends who are your age because even I guess we're only 7 years, but 10-year difference is completely night and day. What was it
just
about?
the tail ends of the millennial generation are entirely different.
I mean,
perceptions.
wasn't gay marriage legalized within a matter of 10 years? Wasn't the first one in 2004?
Yeah, 2004.
So
12 years total.
2015, so 11 years or so. But and I have several gay friends who are about 10 years older than me, some of them 20, 30 years older than me, and hearing their experiences and stuff like that and just talking with them, I'm very fortunate to be the age I am and the time period that I am.
You young whippersnappers don't even understand. I mean, I'm 10 years older than you, and gay characters were not on. I mean, they were kind of on TV. Billy Crystal,
Will and Grace.
Yeah, Billy Crystal played a gay character on Soap in the 70s or 80s.
Oh, jeez.
And that was crazy. And
riots in the street over that.
Yeah, even when Will and Grace came out, it was sort of very controversial. But I'll tell you what the cultural tipping point was. Mm-hmm. Everybody's attitude towards gay characters on TV changed with Queer Eye for the Straight Guy.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
it honestly, everybody's attitude they saw these guys because it wasn't a character, so it wasn't the amped up flamboyant
reality
gay,
TV
right?
show.
Jack what's his face doing it. It was 5 guys that you actually would want to hang out with and be friends with, doing their thing, and they were likable. And you went, oh, they're not monsters. They don't have horns.
Right.
And so that was really the thing that changed. That was the tipping point for society's attitudes. And I don't know if you even remember that show, but you probably were in middle school when it was on, but it's basically...
I've heard of it.
They take a fat schlub like me who, rips his cargo shorts in the middle of the day and then makes him a man.
From what I've heard, it was just really flamboyant gay guys coming in and, oh, honey, none of this will do, and remodeling your house. And
Carson was, but then
oh, okay, the others weren't as.
Yeah, I mean, it was a full spectrum. It was totally different societal expectations of manhood. Down the line,
Ted Allen was on it, and Ted Allen is the Food Network guy. I think it's Chopped. He does Chopped, and he's. He didn't talk with a lisp.
Yeah.
Neither did the skincare guy. He didn't have a lisp, and so everybody went, whoa,
because
gay guys don't all have a lisp.
That's also good if they don't fit into those stereotypes of flamboyantly gay, and you can spot it a mile off. I mean, as someone who doesn't usually fit a lot of those stereotypes, and I've had a lot of most people in my experience have been surprised to find out. I always just assumed I was straight.
Because you look like you could crush some puss. I'm glad you are not straight because I don't want to have to compete against you, bro.
Well, I'm just doing you a favor
because I'm in love
Sounds
with Emily.
Like dating protectionism.
We were in the same market when I was on the market, so I was swimming around in Chloe's pool.
What?
Not for you specifically, for one of your little beauty school friends or whatever.
Oh,
beauty school.
Because I went I didn't go to beauty school.
Basically, it's like whatever. You're all
Man, that is
Wow.
just like Ball State.
I have 2 degrees, asshole.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't rub. Can I have one? Read it's review one.
No.
Journalism and beauty school, is that the second one?
She's a cosmetarian. All right, so North
No.
Carolina. Do we feel like this is a big deal? Did we finish up everything?
For us, it isn't. I mean, it's the application of the libertarian philosophy. You know, the
Yeah.
only maybe there are cultural norms that are established and rise up organically, and it's something I've talked about recurring on here. Is for baby boomers, they've seen such radical change in their lifetime. My God,
Oh, yeah.
to be raised in the 1950s in the Grease era, to Bruce Jenner, their hero from the 80s in the Olympics, now being Caitlyn.
Well, it is similar.
It's a big.
That's
it's a
why.
radical
That's why they're
change.
wanting to make America great again.
No, it is. That's why
Yeah.
you win elections. Is you get a group of middle income white voters and tell them of a better time.
Yeah, if you're my great grandfather who was born on a farm in southern Indiana in 1911, and then he died in 1997. Think about the changes in society from cars. The airplane wasn't invented yet to man walking on the
internet.
moon.
Yeah.
The
Sitting
internet.
around at night listening to the radio.
Crystal
Right.
Pepsi.
Yeah.
I mean, just all of these things.
So
I feel like that was so mocking because we were like 7 and that was so cool.
oh god, I loved Crystal Pepsi.
So what is this?
It was
what is
clear
this
Pepsi.
crystal?
It was revolutionary.
It was Sprite.
See, when you were 7, I was being born, so I'm not familiar with what this. even
there was
is.
clear Pepsi.
Clear Pepsi.
Think of it as if there was Mountain Dew that wasn't white trash.
So it's
it tasted just like Pepsi,
so
but
it's Mountain Dew without green number 40 or whatever.
it was Pepsi, but in Sprite
Clear.
coloring. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
clear.
It's clear.
So
It was
Look
pure.
at it, you can't even wrap your mind around it.
Pure,
But-
if you will.
But you have these
Yes.
technological changes and societal changes, and you have the '60s and it's revolutionary. But really, by and large, from 1911 to 1997, you had that first real dent in society's idea of values or morals or whatever it might be in Bill Clinton in the 60s and 70s. But it still was fairly conservative. In the 90s, they were arguing about labeling stickers. They put the parental guideline stickers on
Nirvana.
in the 90s.
Smells like Teen Spirit.
But, if you think about a baby boomer in terms of cultural and erasing
It's radical.
in the idea, I mean, Christianity isn't a thing anymore. Christianity was we were a Christian nation in 1980 and 1990. We're not really a Christian nation at this point.
Are we not? I mean, you're right. It isn't popular. Church attendance is down. People that self-identify as Christians is down. People that actually attend church. But Europe's still a Christian
We're like a
area, even though,
cafeteria.
but I think Christianity and its message is evolving.
And even because I've had several Christian I shouldn't say former Christian friends who I just haven't seen that all that often. And much to my surprise, because I was never expecting any of my Christian friends to ever come around on it, and I came out to some of them with mixed responses over the spectrum. But I've had them, some people come to me years later and say, "I want you to know I've completely changed my mind on this. I support you 110%. I don't think there's anything wrong with homosexuality. I don't think it's a sin." Completely surprised me. I'm certainly happy by it, but that's a change I never even expected, and I've seen that just happen in my own life.
Yeah.
With Christians,
Everything. Yeah. I mean, it's nothing stays the same forever.
Yeah.
Except taxes.
Yep. Everyone, as my
One
choir,
day.
as my choir director used to say in high school, you only have to do 2 things in life: die and pay taxes.
Yes,
I'm like, yep, that's very true.
that's the truth.
So
Or if you're rich,
Freeze yourself. You can
hide
only
them
do
in
one of
Panama.
those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice segue.
Do we have anything more in North Carolina? Or
I don't
we
think
can
so.
Nah,
move
there's not,
on?
I mean,
Get over it. Quit being a bunch of babies. This is like they called around the Reason folks.
I thought you were going to drop the F word right there.
No, they called around Reason, and the Reason reporter called around, and like nobody can find a documented case of this like happening. It's just a non-issue. Grow up. Speaking of other non-issues in the news, in my opinion, the Panama Papers. Greg, what are the Panama Papers?
Well, I set up North Carolina, so I'll let Chloe set it up.
All
or
right.
Sure.
Seth, whoever.
It's nice to have another informed person.
It is.
I know.
You're not carrying the whole load, Greg.
wonderful. Well, I'll go ahead and give just a brief overview of the Panama Papers, and I'll just read the lead from the New York Times. I thought they put together a really great article about this today. But a group of global news organizations have published articles based on a trove of leaked confidential documents from a law firm in Panama. And they exposed how some of the world's most powerful people were said to have used offshore bank accounts to conceal their wealth or avoid taxes. And I'd like to point out the "or" in this sentence, because a lot of what I'm seeing on Facebook, at least from, the very, very left, are, the Bernie bros are, these people, they only put their money in these accounts because they don't want to pay taxes. Well, no, if you read this last sentence, it says to conceal their wealth or avoid taxes. And I think that's something really important to point out.
Because the papers do not claim that anyone violated any laws.
Exactly. And if I can, I'll go through this again, but basically towards the end of this article, it just says it's not clear if anyone has broken any laws. And I really don't think that we're going to know if that had happened unless there's some huge investigation, which I'm sure there's going to be, because, we're America and we have to, investigate everything. But
will there, though?
Luckily, we're not bound to the obligations of this.
Right.
We're not participants in that.
We're really not.
That's the nice thing about being the biggest economy in the world. Exactly.
And I think there were around, I think it was 400 people or maybe 4,000 people, something like that were named. The majority of them are from overseas. Some of the big names are Vladimir Putin, president of Russia.
Well, he's not named, though.
Well, but
his best friend is.
Well, yeah, his best friend on behalf of him, apparently.
I felt like that was, but isn't that terrible reporting? But isn't that horrible reporting? Like, he's not in this.
Right.
Like, he literally, there's no existence.
But
Greg,
his
best friend
if
is.
you want to sell, that is great reporting.
Right.
If you want to get those ad revenues.
But
isn't
that
odd?
Reporting.
Everything you read in the New York Times is true.
But isn't that odd that he literally doesn't appear in it?
Fact.
But because his friend does,
he's automatically dragged into it.
It's the Putin papers.
Well, and they
even though
leave,
he makes no appearance.
and really,
and Putin was reached for comment and said, "Yeah, suck my dick."
well, he said verbatim.
I did it. Come after me, bro.
Half of Russia would do it as well. I can confirm.
Verbatim, he said the leak was an American plot. Okay.
Wow.
I mean,
the broking, there were no Americans named. There were addresses of people that live in America, but there were no actual Americans named.
But we don't actually know if they live in America or if that's just a P.O. box that they have.
Right.
That's part of the problem. We don't know.
And I'm not sure what the outrage is over. Like, if I'm a leftist, I get it. There's that.
They're not paying their fair share.
Well, there's that annual. What's the annual? The tax gap or whatever, the difference
income
between
gap.
the tax collection gap. So every year we're about $800 billion less than we anticipate.
Oh yeah.
And so that's what the president wanted to crack down on,
and we get every penny of that for sure.
Yeah, except they passed laws to make sure we don't.
Yeah.
But the president comes out and gives a speech yesterday, and the funniest thing in the world is that this Panama, it's Mossack Fonseca, is that right?
Yeah.
Is it a speech in response to the Panama Papers specifically?
His?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's to crack on this gap that exists. It's irrelevant for tax time.
Okay.
Well, so he does, and then Bloomberg puts out Delaware has been named a worst offender because of their extremely lax corporation laws, and they make $1 billion a year on the usability and easiness to file and create a corporation, a shell corporation.
Right.
We're like the biggest offender, and we're a higher tax haven than Panama.
Right.
And so they're like, what is he even talking about?
Well,
that's where his vice president was a senator from.
And right. I mean, to kind of talk about groupthink and people that aren't necessarily informed, but the prime minister of Iceland resigned or stepped aside, I think maybe yesterday or the day before.
Yep.
But that only came after all of the protests that were happening outside of his
total hypocrite.
But what was that? 'Cause his role in it was something like
he's the prime minister and he campaigned on so they had the option. They were getting ready to enter the EU. Mm-hmm. And so in order to meet that, there are certain things, obligations you have to meet. He said, we're not going to bail out the banks. We're going to give everyone money. They're going to deposit in the banks, and that's how we'll recapitalize. It's very populist rather than just giving the banks money.
Yes, because I remember a bunch of people sharing that on Facebook and
liberals going all.
Yeah. And like, so the people got the money rather than bailing out private banks. So they nationalized them, eliminated the debt, and then they were cut off from the joining the European Union.
Spoiler alert: he's corrupt.
Turns out he owned a big he owned like 11% of the banks that failed.
God damn,
that ended
that's
up ultimately
hilarious.
getting bailed out, and this exposed the connection.
That is
Right.
hilarious.
Yeah.
And
That is gold.
one
Sorry, continue.
Well, one other thing that I thought was kind of interesting, at least from this article, because this really is all I've read about this, but Panama's president has vowed to cooperate with any judicial investigations. And in an interview conducted over the messaging platform WhatsApp, he said that the law firm, or the founder of the law firm, told the Times, "At the end of this storm, the sky will be blue again, and people will find that the only crime is the hacking." I find it interesting that they conducted the interview over WhatsApp, and I don't know if you guys have read this recently, but WhatsApp has announced that they're going to end-to-end encryption. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are starting to... Well, Brett Bittner was originally the person that told me about this, and he said...
Brett Bittner?
Little Brett Bittner, yeah.
Encrypting at his own pace?
Encrypting at his own pace.
What do you mean end-to-end?
WhatsApping at his own pace?
I'm sorry?
What do you mean by end-to-end encryption?
They're basically going to... They announced, like, hey, we're going to stop encrypting everything.
The issues...
right?
They're starting to stop encrypting stuff?
No, it's in response to Apple. So the idea is that even if you have an iPhone, if you use WhatsApp as your communication platform, they will not be able to decrypt it.
Right.
Or
WhatsApp.
through like a warrant, or if John McAfee decides he can break it on a YouTube video just randomly.
So
I don't know if you saw
He'll
that.
shoot it at the end.
WhatsApp is owned by Facebook as well.
it is,
Which
which
is
is
interesting.
Which is crazy because Facebook is just, oh, well, we'll take all of your data.
They're
don't
reading
care.
everything.
They read everything that you send.
Yeah.
Literally.
So, and Brett had even told me, he said, if you're interested, only communicate on WhatsApp. And I think that's what he might end up doing. I mean, we'll have to talk to him more about it, but
Nope, he's out of chat because
Yep.
I'm not going to WhatsApp.
no.
Maybe we'll just all tell him and then we'll ban him from chat. Yeah, we'll meet you there, buddy.
Yeah, we'll see ya.
No, it's amazing. Like, I read this from a Brookings Institute scholar who's probably he's the only American that has decent relations with the Kremlin and with some of Putin's inner circle. And he's actually, there's conspiratorial
bastard.
There's conspiratorial tones around this because Putin is he's in a tough place economically. Like, Russia isn't doing well.
When
Global
has it
gas
ever
glut.
done well?
They don't, the petrodollar and their ability to fund their government and expansion plans has collapsed. And he's lost political capital, and some of the people he's made rich, which is where the ties come in, have even, they're not quite as behind him as they were, because Putin's been alleged to be worth anywhere between 40 and 100 billion via offshore, banking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But they've never been able to prove a single thing. But the point is, like, so there's no Americans named. There's one source of information. They were able to hack. I mean, if you're this law firm, you have the best freaking cybersecurity, data protection on earth. If this is the kind of business you deal with,
But they're saying it's not an inside job.
it isn't. So it's a hack job. So that makes me say, all right. So it wasn't an employee internally. Somebody hacked this company that deals only in financial transactions for the rich and elite of the world.
Right.
They only got the information that had nothing to do with Americans.
They did.
Interesting.
And so there's
Go on.
so that then on top of that, you say, well, Vladimir Putin is not in this. Yet one person, John Doe, there's one source for everybody. He relays this information to the internet.
ICIJ or something?
Yeah, ICIJ, like there are 400 of the world's most elite investigative journalist reporters. And he leaks it to them, but he does it instead of by email or anything like that, via like one-time encryption, a little bit of data at once, and it's over 2.6 terabytes. So it's 11.5 million documents. Largest data dump in history.
No thanks.
And so he does this a year ago. There's no peep of this at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In today's world, not a peep. There's no Americans.
So that shit got hacked in the first place, and then ISIJ held on to it for
One
a
guy.
year. Well,
One
wait,
guy hacked this?
right? And then did he hold on to it for a year?
He said,
or
how would
did
you
a
like-
year ago he start releasing?
He
it to ISIJ?
released it after they, he wanted to release it to this group.
Okay.
He released it to them, and then he did it in bits and pieces over the course of this last year until they formulated a narrative. And shockingly, not a single American is in this, which some experts have said, that isn't totally shocking because basically Delaware's the greatest tax haven on earth. Why the hell would you mess with Panama?
Right.
Yeah.
So that, it isn't totally shocking or a conspiracy, but the author for the Brookings Institute actually alleges that Vladimir Putin did it himself.
Huh.
He did it himself because he has, I'll read what I know very little about the insides of Russia's government, but apparently, one second, he created the Russian Financial Monitoring Service, which is his personal intelligence unit, which answers only to him, no other side over than to Vladimir Putin. Mm-hmm. And it's completely legitimate and widely recognized as the most powerful such agency in the world with a monopoly on information about money laundering, offshore centers, and related issues involving Russia or Russian nationals. Now, while it may not have legal access to access the secrets by Mossack Fonseca, it's privy to a lot of international financial information because it is the governing member of the Financial Action Task Force internationally. And so this author's point was that he did this on purpose to further cement control as Russia against the world and Vladimir Putin against the world when there's no allegation to make or connect the dots whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And that it's a thumb in the eye too. He perfectly set it up so people would think the United States was behind it. They're the hackers because they're not listed.
That's some House of Cards stuff
it is.
right
yeah,
there.
But
and it's none of it's provable or anything like that. But I thought, who benefits from this? Really?
Honestly, I don't know because it doesn't.
Right.
It's sort of stupid.
Yeah.
Oh my God, rich people don't like paying taxes.
Right.
Stunning.
Mm-hmm.
Gee, guess what? A country sets up oppressive, stupid taxes, and then they flee to a legal haven and start storing their money elsewhere. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Big deal. I'm sorry, Edward Snowden. It's not the biggest leak in the history of the world.
This wasn't him.
No.
This was one guy that leaked to all of them.
But the conspiracy theory is that this is somehow America's doing and to make Putin look bad.
Right.
And that's what Putin even said.
Right. He's doing it as propaganda to us versus the world to secure his hold on power in a time when it's sort of teetering. And to make it look...
Is?
Yeah. To smear the West.
You think that Putin himself is attaching his name to it?
He didn't. There is no Vladimir Putin in this, and there have been all these allegations that he is worth $40 to $100 billion.
But you're saying that he wants his name to be attached to it, as if he's the bad guy. So it's us versus them.
Yeah, because then it looks like the West, since there's no Americans involved at all, totally clear of any American involvement.
So is the John Doe Russian? Or is that the
He's
theory?
saying it's his financial research agency
that hacked the Panama,
because since they're on the lead of the international financial task force, that they would have the ability to follow the trails.
It's an interesting notion,
right? Because I just don't see who benefits at all. Everybody knows rich people hate paying taxes.
Yeah.
That's why they donate to politicians.
This is just something Bernie people are going to share on Facebook and bitch about the rich not paying taxes.
Yeah.
I don't see it going any further than that.
Well,
Yeah.
then he's going to save us and create more government with more cronyism, but he's going to be in charge, so it'll be perfect.
Yeah, and then create higher
He is,
taxes.
he is
so
the Lord and Savior of
so more-
democratic socialism, Greg.
more people will flee. I mean, it's insane.
I don't know. What were your thoughts on it? Did it bug you?
I think one of our friends, Chris Mayo, put it out there perfectly on Facebook, and I think that this can go. It doesn't matter if you're rich. It doesn't matter if you're poor. I think most people don't like paying taxes, and it's like, okay, Lenz, you have your piggy bank at your house, but your mom, constantly wants you to pay for your own candy bars or whatever,
Right, yeah.
and she wants to regulate your piggy bank. So you're like, screw it. I'm going to go ahead and put my piggy bank at Spangle's house because his mom doesn't go through my closet, so I'm going to keep it there so that way I can keep more of my money so that my mom won't take my quarters for whatever. Well,
It's a perfect analogy.
Well, it's a great analogy. And then Seth and I were like, hey, our moms are still going through our closet, so let's go ahead and put our piggy banks over at Spangle's house. Well, pretty soon there's all of these piggy banks in Spangle's bedroom. And his mom's like, whoa, what is going on over here with all these piggy banks? Spangle, you got some splaining to do. So
Fuck you,
call the rest of the moms and you're like, hey, this is what's going on. All of your kids have this money over at our house. What's up? And that's basically what's happening.
But
with the Panama Papers.
It is. That's and like
Yeah,
I guess I don't know. It seems like that they were anticipating this global outrage that rich people and because the other thing too is shell corporations serve a purpose.
They're just leaving. No, it's the neighbor leaving.
Oh, okay. I got scared.
Like for instance, Matthew Iglesias, he wrote about it and he said, Apple uses shell companies because of the world's, the United States preeminent, tech company, innovative company. They use shell companies to go and start new projects, like for instance with their car. And so he cited the name of the shell company. Everyone knows this is Apple's team going around and researching and thinking about cars, but they don't want it to get back to their quarterly earnings report or that they're reserving part of their money for investment in a car which may completely fail or it'll cause the stock to go down. And so there are real purposes for hiding, or a celebrity, wanting to buy and have privacy.
concerns.
Yeah.
I've had to institute certain procedures in my life.
Yeah.
I just can't go anywhere these days without somebody wanting a selfie with me. It's just so annoying.
You know all about living that double life. Don't you?
Ah, God, yeah.
So difficult.
I don't know. It just something doesn't feel right about it. It feels manufactured. It feels astroturfed to me. I don't know.
I'm with you. I don't see the problem here. I'm all for people keeping more of their money, and if the government wants to be a dick and create a bunch of taxes that are oppressive, and as Seth has established, what is taxation?
Theft.
That's right. Taxation is theft, right, Chloe?
Always.
That's right.
Always, dear leader.
Tell me I'm pretty, and tell me taxation is theft.
Exactly.
An actual text that Chloe sent her boyfriend and
multiple times.
Never.
And then he responded. Pedro responded with, "Shut up."
That's why he's going back.
But I
Right.
will say. So yesterday he gave me a hug, and I'm short, right? And his face is perfect to be right by my ear if he crouches down.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, "Taxation is theft."
Aww.
And I was like, my gosh.
Those are the sweet nothings you want to be with.
Exactly.
He knows how to get a girl excited.
I just thought it was hilarious, and I just started laughing.
Gay guys,
funny.
take note.
When you are taking Seth out on a date, he wants you to know that you will follow the non-aggression principle everywhere except the bedroom.
It's awfully assumptive.
Oh gosh.
Maybe I'm sorry. Maybe you like to be kissed softly. I don't know.
No comment.
Maybe or maybe. Never mind.
No comment.
Power
I don't know.
bottom.
I don't know who'll be listening to this.
What?
Go ahead, Greg.
Nothing. I think we fleshed it out. To me,
Yeah.
it's simple.
Yeah.
We've known forever that there are tax havens in the Caribbean, and I didn't realize that the United States was the biggest creator of tax havens in Delaware. So
That's the biggest amount of news to me.
yeah, I had no idea, and so I didn't even realize we made the OECD report as the largest tax haven being Delaware. I thought, oh, wonderful.
And don't get me wrong. I'm sure half these rich people, like the Prime Minister of Iceland, are scum. But
Right.
the ones who aren't and who've actually done something in this world and want to hide their money from the tax man, good on them.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like John McAfee. Whatever he did, I'm sure it wasn't that bad.
It's the hypocrisy of the government. What it is the government creates this situation. Government. The only way this happens is with a government. There's a centralization of who controls the money, who controls the taxes, who controls the flow of funds by tracking it digitally, and the
No,
networks.
you don't understand, Greg. In a stateless society, rich people would just control everything with warlords and whatnot. /S.
You said, was this on a mutualism board? No. I thought about it a lot, and I didn't get outraged about it. I read it once, and we've known this.
Yeah,
This isn't new.
Same here.
it's not.
This is like when Mark Foley goes and taps his feet in a courthouse restroom. We've known. This is what happens.
We've always known.
Yeah. The loudest, the loudest that call for are the biggest culprits every time.
Absolutely. All right, let's land this plane. I'm going on my almost 5th hour of podcasting at this point. I'm getting sleepy, kids.
It's a lot of podcasting.
I know, and I'm hungry. You know what happens when I get hungry?
What?
I eat.
Oh, whoa.
All right, so at the end, Seth,
Look out, Mittens.
you are... I don't eat my cat. I'm not...
He's not a pussy either.
Oh, I completely understand.
Why do you gotta embarrass me like that? All right, at the end of the show, everybody gets a chance to say what they might have not been able to say for the rest of the podcast, or self-promote a little bit, tell people where they can get a hold of you. Let's have Chloe go first.
Ladies first.
Me? Oh, so
Sexist.
nice.
I know.
Well, for those of you that don't know, I do all of the media for the Advocates for Self-Government. We're doing a huge Freedom is My Favorite F Word sticker campaign. So if you go to any of our social media, the Advocates on Twitter, what? Why are you looking at me? On
He's
Facebook.
laughing about how that could be applied to another word.
No,
Oh
there's
my
somebody
gosh.
like stomping somewhere or knocking
Sorry.
on something.
That was me.
Oh,
Fess
was it?
up. I tapped my foot. I was
Oh,
sorry.
I thought the lady below us was like,
Sorry.
shut up.
Shut up, you kids.
I honest to God thought that because we talk loud. I mean, we have to. We're in radio for it.
I mean, whatever.
So anyway,
Bitch, deal
But
with it.
anyway,
F word for freedom
yeah.
campaign.
blah blah blah. Freedom.
Freedom's
blah,
my
blah,
favorite
blah.
F word. Make sure you get a sticker. They're beautifully designed. Not like I had anything to do with them. Yeah, and I'll hold one up. So put it. Yeah, thank you, Seth. So go ahead, check that out. At Chloe Anagnos on Twitter. Follow me. I'm a little bit newer to Twitter, so come and tweet at me.
Yeah,
She's a troll, though. Be careful.
she
Yeah,
is.
be
That's-
careful.
That's honestly why she's earned her spot. Is she don't give no shit.
She is
No.
a hardcore troll.
She's a brutalist. We broke her. You know, when we first met little Chloe Anagnos, she was so concerned about this incident in her past. It was a DUI. And,
up. No, it was
wasn't.
not. Shut
It was
up.
not. It was racism. It was nothing.
She voted for McCain.
I did.
So
Warren McCain.
and she's just like, I don't know. I just have this thing and blah blah.
Well,
and
it's just one of those things where you kind of get to the point where you realize, like, look, college life is so much different than life outside of
Real
college,
life,
and freedom of speech. And Seth's turn.
yeah. So we changed her. We turned her into our image. She's
We
me-
taught her how to steamroll fields with a tank.
She's walking around saying top
Very
keck every
valuable
5
skill.
minutes.
It's great.
Top keck is awesome.
Uh-huh.
Seth.
I don't really have anything to self-promote.
What was your response to the philosophical question on the overcoming the individual mandate on an anarcho-capitalist society?
Let me think. I haven't thought about it in a while. Maybe that's better off air.
We
Do you
don't talk off air. That's not what we do here.
Okay.
There will be no personal contact with Dear Leader
Yeah,
after the
he's
show.
hungry and tired. We're gone. We're going back, guys.
Okay.
Gotta go
We're
back.
going back.
I think it was because try and help me remind me here. Like,
What would be the incentive?
you were saying, what if you have a rogue actor, someone who doesn't sign up under a rights enforcement agency, and then, oh my gosh, he can kill somebody because he didn't agree to the private,
Right, he
laws
has
of don't kill.
right.
And essentially, I think the only. See, you're catching me off guard here. I don't remember what my response was.
This is how I win arguments. Seth.
Yeah,
Get used to it.
my response was much better, a year and a half ago or whenever, when I had it more thought out. But it was essentially like, that guy's killing people. It's bullshit. If you're going to be violating the NAP and taking away people's rights like that, you don't get to say, well, I didn't agree to not take his life. So
That's hard to do once you're dead.
yeah, but his family will kill you.
That's true, and that's fine.
I mean,
And that just sounds exactly what I want to sell libertarians on and win elections with. If you kill them, they'll kill you back.
I mean, or the rights
Yeah.
enforcement agency will toss you in a jail cell or maybe,
Camp.
Yeah,
Liberty camp.
That's right, summer camp.
Yes.
So
We'll think it over. We'll
Yeah.
cover it another time. We haven't had a philosophical, Nietzschean convo.
well,
I know.
not during election.
I'm excited to see how deep Seth is. I think that he.
the first straight guy to say that to me.
I'm done.
Well,
It's the second straight girl to say that to you. You can't leave Wall. Go sit down. You get up when I say you can get up, woman.
oh wow, she listened. Wow,
No.
I'm so disappointed in you.
I am hungry. Let's do this.
Let's wrap this thing up.
Half of us are hungry and angry.
But yes, I like this little mix that we've got going here.
This is a good dynamic.
Yeah. We've got young and beautiful, and then we've got us, Greg.
Sad about life. I know. We've seen it all.
Old,
We
decrepit,
realize this Liberty train is going nowhere.
aging poorly.
It's all downhill from here.
Yep.
Thank God your girlfriend's 20. Otherwise, man, it'd
like
really
a-
be depressing.
I'm like a vampire.
I don't have much, I guess, to say in terms of like plugging and stuff like that. Other than just, again, gay people, I'm sorry, I feel for you. I am probably like the less than 1% who actually stops and thinks about it enough to realize, the other side of it. Everyone else is just going to, go along with, oh, how dare they not bake us a cake? But, try and put your feels aside and your own personal bias and think about it. Think about the non-aggression principle and all that. That's
The
all I have
emotion
to say.
and systems you put in place by indulging that anger and outrage are the same institutions and anger and outrage you're creating for people like for Donald Trump and his supporters.
Mm-hmm.
You're creating the exact same tools for them, and it's inevitable that the other side is going to have control over those tools.
And it's that same kind of thinking
It is.
that forced gay people to have to choose between castration or prison in the first place.
Yep.
It's that same kind of just, what, you're gay? I'm immediately outraged. I'm not even going to bother to think about the situation, really evaluate it. That has caused so much, hatred and oppression all this time. So stop and think.
Creating the tools will be the ones that'll be used against you.
Mm-hmm. All right, Greg.
No, I just want to thank you guys for coming on. Chloe, I'm glad you're going to be joining us more in the future.
too.
And Seth, it's been wonderful. We've wanted to do this for a while, and I hope you come back soon.
If I'm invited back on, sure.
Sure. You've been delightful.
And Spangle, I look for. Hopefully, we have big news. We can announce the big news soon because I'm really excited about
I
it.
hope so. I didn't get a chance to talk with those guys, but yeah, it'll be real exciting. The 18th.
Oh, I'm speaking Saturday.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It's sold out.
I'm gonna tape it.
Are you gonna tape it?
I'm gonna put it in the Raw Audio Politics podcast feed. So if you want to hear Greg speak, I've never heard Greg speak. I don't know have you ever given a speech like this before?
Oh yeah, not to Libertarians, though, more Republicans.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll be interested to see if I get tarred and feathered.
Well, Tard will definitely
Did you
be
just
involved.
say that you would force Anne Frank to sell Nazi cakes to Hitler?
All right, kids, thanks for joining us. I don't have anything. I just want you to go check out the new logo. Hit wearelibertarians.com. See all the cool articles and podcasts and things that we have there. Thank you for joining us. And as always, we promise
To do better next time.